Clearly what was going on in Syria was heart-wrenching, and one of the things I've always said in business is do the right thing. So I decided I would do my tiny little part and sponsor some people to come here. Success for us would be 50 families working, paying taxes, speaking English, and buying groceries where you and I buy groceries.
The biggest thing for me, he offered me work. I know, as my experience before, it is difficult when you move to the new country and you start working in next 10 days with good position and logical salary. So I think it is something amazing.
It gives me a great feeling to see people who are launched to success. At the same time, I don't feel that I'm doing enough. You've got millions of people, and great, I take 250 people, it's nothing, it's a drop in the bucket. If this was happening to you, you would want someone to help you get on your feet. And that's all we're trying to do, is help people get on their feet.
Thank you for that. So, I mean, the introduction and the video is all about refugees, but I'm not actually speaking about refugees. I'm speaking about business, because I understand a lot of people here are business people. And so we're going to need to get my slides up here. So if I have time, see they have a nice timer here, which I actually like. If I have time, I'll talk about the refugee thing after I've done my little business thing, and I'm talking about failure. So I wonder if we could cue my slides here, or make my clicker work, one or the other. Or I could just fill in. Okay, let's see here. We'll go back to the start. Okay, fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. When I was in university, I was studying engineering, and I wanted to design circuit boards. In order to do that, I needed a computer, and I got a better deal if I bought 2 of them. So I bought 2 computers, I sold one, then someone else wanted a computer, so I bought another 2 computers, and then they wanted a printer, and someone wanted some software, and pretty soon, I was in the business of buying and selling computers. My first year sales, I sold $50,000, then $450,000, then $1,079,000, then $2.6 million, $4.6 million, then $5.6 million. That was kind of a slow growth year. And then $10 million, $20 million, $30 million, $40 million, oh, $40 million, $40 million. So I had 3 years there where there was no growth. And I learned, gee, no growth is no fun. Because in order to drive efficiency into a business, you need to grow. And then we did 68 million, then we did 100 million, and I kept going up to 350 million in sales. So when I was 350 million in sales, I sold to Cynics. Now, part of the deal I negotiated was that I would run the combined entity. So it was 800 million in sales, and I ran it for 5 years, and we went from 800 million to 2 billion over a 5-year period. So during that time, it took me 14 years to get to $100 million a year in sales. When I was doing Cynics, we never grew by less than 100 million in a year, and many quarters we would grow by $100 million. Then I retired and moved to New York, and I was doing a lot of angel and venture capital at the time. And I happened to sit on the board of Danby Appliances, and I actually lived in New York for a while. I was doing angel and venture capital. My dad got sick, so I moved back to Guelph, which is where I lived most of my adult life. And I was on the board of Danby. The CEO resigned. I said, oh, I'll come in and run Danby on an interim basis. And I said, hey, I like running a business. When I was doing my angel and venture capital and my boards, I was finding I wasn't getting the operating part, so I really wanted to get the operating part of the business. And then the owners said they wanted to sell the business, and I said, well, how much for? And I said, fine, I'll take it. So I bought the business. So that's why I own Danby Appliances. So I unretired because I realized I like operating a business. And I also realized it helps me achieve my purpose. And having Danby is a platform that allows me to do the things that I do. And it gives me leverage, and I wanted that leverage. So my why is do the right thing. And I originally started saying that when I was running my business. I'd say, do the right thing. You can have an employee manual that says how to deal with every eventuality, but I'll tell you, you're going to miss things. So how do you treat your coworkers? Do the right thing. How do you treat your suppliers? Do the right thing. How do you treat your customers? Do the right thing. Do you ship products that don't work? No, do the right thing. So I always said, do the right thing. That was the tagline. And that's why when I saw what was happening from a humanitarian point of view in Syria, I said, what is the right thing? Because I can't really go and say, we do the right thing, and then we just ignore that, because that's another place in the world. So Danby allows me to get leverage to do that. People who fail more succeed more. So I encourage you to dare to try. And what I have seen is the people who don't succeed are the ones who don't try. It's not the ones who fail along the way to success. If you think of the 3-year-old, 3-year-olds know how to sing, 3-year-olds know how to public speak. So I'm just basically a big 3-year-old here. 3-year-olds can paint, but the fear of failure limits us, because when I call you and say, come on up here and sing, you probably don't want to, because fear of failure. I believe in a business, the larger the business, the more the leader's job is to coach on culture and let everyone else make decisions. And I believe in a business, you want to create a culture of failure. Now that sounds weird, but what it means is when someone fails, you don't zap. Now, I go back to fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. So I don't want to fail and find out we ordered 1 million parts made out of plastic when the metal ones, and found out it failed. You want to fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. But create a culture of failure, and I will tell you that's difficult in a company, because many, many companies will zap people when they make a mistake, and that creates a culture where people don't want to try anything. So I'm a marketer at heart. As a matter of fact, I'm a big LinkedIn user. If you get LinkedIn to me and send me a LinkedIn message, I can send you a copy of my book, $0 to $2 billion, which is a book on marketing. But the reason to say that I'm a marketer is it goes with the concept of ABC testing. When you market, you send to 1,000 people, we make our fridges are more durable. And you send it to another 1,000 people, our fridges are sexier. And then you find out people want the sexier ones, they don't care as much about the durable, or they care more about the service. So you A/B test everything, and you send half the flyers out in green, half the flyers out in red. You do your web page for some people in blue and some people in green. You do the buttons at the top, the buttons at the bottom. Everything is ABC testing, which means you're failing on half of them. But failure is a way to determine what will be successful. So the best market research I find is just doing it, just trying it. This is particularly true when the product does not currently exist, when the product is not in the market. Steve Jobs said he didn't believe in market research because people don't know what they want until they see it. And now that's not true if it's in my business. I make freezers and bar fridges and stuff. You already know what a freezer is. I can do a little bit of market research, but the best market research is just to try it. So as a matter of fact, I have an outlet store in Guelph. Actually, in all of my factories, I have outlet stores. And when you go to that outlet store, there's actually, you'll see a product that has a square handle. You're gonna say, where's this product? I can't find it anywhere on the website. That's because it doesn't exist. We tried it with a square handle and a round handle and a curved handle and a red handle and a black handle, and find out that people didn't like the square handle. So that's how I get rid of all my my experimental product. Don't worry, we don't do things that aren't electrically tested, so we make sure that they do that. So while I was in distribution, I was my business buying, selling computers. I was buying and selling peripherals. I saw a lot of technologies, and as a result of that, I was able to invest in a lot of technologies. So one of the most famous ones, I had the pleasure of being on the board with BlackBerry since before they were public. for the first 13 years. So it went from like 10 million in sales to 16 billion, from a couple hundred employees to many, many thousands. So I did 150 tech investments, and I had 25 exits. So what does that mean? I did 150 tech investments. I had 125 failures. Do you win? You win on the 25. Just like Michael was saying on venture capital, you get an outsized return, but you have to try. You have to be willing to fail. And not only that, everyone thinks you're the genius because I did BlackBerry, but I did the other 125 companies you've never heard of because they're not in business anymore. But people know you for your wins. So allow for failure. Fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. Repeat it all the time. Fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. Failure is a way to find the path to success. So having a failure does not make you a failure. And part of the problem that we all have psychologically when we have a failure is we start to think, oh, I'm a loser, I'm a failure. Having a failure does not make you a failure. It's all about how you get up. And I will tell you, even I have problems getting back up after you've failed, but having a failure does not make you a failure. I just repeat it all the time, and I say I like to have some failures because then I have the wins. So at the time I opened the outlet store in Guelph, and same time as that, I opened a retail store in Paris, Ontario. And a year later, when the lease was up, I closed the retail store in Paris after losing money for over a year because the market wasn't big enough, people didn't buy the product, and the outlet store was successful enough that I've opened outlet stores in all of the other 4 factories we have in the States. So I've often tried multiple things at the same time. Some succeed, and then you put more money in them, you put more energy, and some fail, but the failures you get over. And if people ask me about failures that happened 10 years ago, I will tell you I can barely remember them. They don't stick with me. One concept is more companies fail from perfection than fail from speed. And that's another thing that people have a hard time getting over. They want to get it perfect, and I get that they want it perfect. And I guess if I'm doing heart surgery, I want someone to get it perfect. But other than that, most things we just try. And of course, that's balanced with DERF, which is do it right first time. So I don't want to ship out the wrong product a lot. That's wrong. You want some degree of perfection, but more companies fail from perfection. More people fail from perfection. And as entrepreneurs, I see many, many entrepreneurs who study to start their business, and they're going to start their business next year. They're going to start the business the year after that, after they've gotten all of the information. Well, the beauty of the business world is actually if you study for the next 6 weeks, and 6 weeks is different than when you started. You're going to have to keep going forever and ever and ever, and you'll never start your business. So success and failure lie. I will tell you in the press or in your mind, you're successful, and everybody says, oh, this person walks on water, or you're a dog. But in reality, both of them are liars. You're a success in some things, but not as much as you should be. Aim to improve a little every day, and if people say you're a dog, you're not as much of a dog as people say you are. Success and failure lie. So this is the front door of Danby, and above Danby it says, do the right thing. That's our tagline. And I still have some time on the clock, so I'll talk a little about the refugee resettlement. When I started, I was going to resettle 50 Syrian refugee families. We ended up settling 61 until recently. We've got another 18 coming in, and they're coming in so fast, I don't know how many we have here right now, but we'll be over 100 in the next 4 months. Of the 61 families who came in, we have to define our definition of success. People working, speaking English, some degree of integration. 53 of them are working. So 53 out of 61, which means we still have some failures in that, but some of those are explainable failures, and some of them are not yet successful, but they will be. It was organized like a business. So like Danby, I get credit for this, but I don't do any of it. I have a lot of volunteers that do the work. So when I say it was organized like a business, I have a director of jobs, a director of health, a director of education, a director of housing, and a director of mentorship. And every family that comes in gets one Arabic-speaking mentor family and 4 or 5 English-speaking mentor families. And the mentor families have checklists, which is to enroll the kids in school, enroll the adults in ESL, get the adults tested for ESL, get the bus pass, ride the bus with them, get a library card, set up a bank account, basically, find the apartment, move them in. So we do the checklist, and we also do scorecarding. So every 2 weeks, how's the family progressing? Oh, we need an ESL tutor for this family. Oh, we need to find a different dentist. Oh, there's a housing issue. And that all goes back to the director of housing or director of health or director of education. So it's organized like a business. Currently, we're not just sponsoring Syrian refugees, we're sponsoring Rohingya and Eritrean and Sudanese, different countries, because I didn't want Guelph to become an Arabic ghetto. I wanted it to be, well, because Guelph actually has a problem that there are 70-year-olds or 80-year-olds in Guelph that don't speak English, they speak Italian. Because if you have too great of concentration in one area, you get away from the success. And when you have a family, it tends to be that the best speaking English speaker becomes a better English speaker and becomes a spokesperson for the family who can live off of the one person who gets better and better at English, and they can, and I believe success in Canada, if you speak English, it is better. So I've tried to bring in a little bit more diversity, and I will say that there's still a significant humanitarian crisis going on in the world. There's still a huge, huge humanitarian need. And I think I will end it with that. So thank you very much.